A pleasant good morning and welcome to NewsNet. 45 minutes of news about Liberia, Africa, and our one world. Today is the 6th of June and I'm Olive Stevenson anchoring this edition. This newscast is relayed on the Voice of Hope in Plebo-Sodican, Maryland County. In our headlines, despite critical concerns from the public, House passes controversial $536 million Eton deal, while recent former lawmakers threaten certain actions at the legislature over failure of government to pay their salaries and benefits. President Weah seeks support from Europe for the security sector after signaling that the country may face a terror threat back home. He submit bills to the legislature decriminalizing free speech. Opposition coalition sends shockwaves through governing party. CDC chairman Moba Molu goes ballistic on the offense. And away from Liberia, a crocodile has killed a Protestant pastor who was baptizing followers near a lake in southern Ethiopia. Our top stories, the news bulletin, the actual voices of those making the news, included foreign developments and your text reaction, all coming in to our Facebook page, coming up very shortly. We're taking a very quick break to be right back. Welcome back to NewsNet. Up next is the Bulletin of News and Augustine KOLLIE. Good morning, Augustine.
Good morning, Olive. Good morning, everyone. The House of Representatives has overwhelmingly ratified and passed the Ayrton Finance Pte. Limited's $536 million loan agreement, pending the Senate's concurrence. The ratification followed more than 2 weeks of scrutiny that witnessed public hearings after being submitted by President George Weah. Defending the passage of the loan agreement in plenary Tuesday, the House's Chairman Ways, Means and Finance considered it legal both locally and internationally. Representative Thomas Fowler argued that the passage, when concurred with by the Senate, would enhance road connectivity in southeastern Liberia, boost revenue generation, and increase agriculture productivity. He added that Liberia has been challenged with deployable roads and the loan could remedy the situation. Former members of the 53rd Legislature have threatened a certain action in the chambers of the 54th Legislature on June 19. A communication to that body honoring the signatures of former Representatives Richmond Anderson and nominee Batikwa noted that the sit-in action is due to government's failure to settle their salaries and benefits. Former Representatives Anderson and Batikwa, in a communication read by the House's Deputy Chief Clerk Sefu Jipley, maintained that their salaries and benefits were allocated in the 2017-2018 budget but have not been paid. According to them, the action appears to be deliberate, saying Thorn Trap was not for rats alone. It remains unclear as to whether some members of the 53rd currently in the 54th are also demanding. Meanwhile, the leadership of the House of Representatives has been mandated to handle the matter. President George Weah has alarmed over a possible terroristic threat on the peace of the country. Speaking at the EU Development Summit days in Brussels, the chief executive stated that since Liberia had accepted to participate in the UN peace mission in Mali, there may be a terroristic attack on the fragile peace. He wants the EU and other international organizations to help buttress the country's security sector to ensure the safety of Liberians and others in the sub-region. According to him, the country risks what he called retaliatory strikes from forces against peace in the world. President George Weah pledged his administration's commitment to the fight against sexual and gender-based violence at the ongoing European Development Day Summit. The chairman of the Coalition for Democratic Change, Moba Molu, has blasted the three collaborating political parties, describing them as a handful of weak and corrupt political individuals. Addressing a press conference at the party's national headquarters Tuesday, Molu said the joint statement presented by the three political parties is not a surprise, but in continuation of their savage desires aimed at tarnishing the reputation of the governing party and President Weah. According to him, there is a need to sustain the gains that have been made by the party, adding that the CDC remains formidable for the next 24 years. He described the Unity Party as the chief architect of corruption in Liberia, while terming the Labour Party and the Alternative National Congress as political business institutions benefiting at the detriment of the citizens who support their endeavor. The CDC national chairman, who boasted of the many groundbreaking ceremonies by President Weah and the multi-million-dollar loan agreements by the president, wants Liberians to remain hopeful about the development drive of the country. The three collaborating parties are expected to release their first critique of the state of affairs on Wednesday. The CDC chairman's outburst appears to be a preemptive strike, as the collaborating parties have not yet made any statement against the government. President George Weah has submitted to the National Legislature a bill with modifications to repeal some sections of the Penal Law of Liberia in an effort to decriminalize free speech and create an unfertile media environment. The bill, submitted May 31, 2018, seeks to amend Chapter 11 of the Penal Law of 1978, repealing sections 11.11 on criminal libel against the president, 11.12 on sedition, and 11.14 on criminal malevolence. The president also reminded the national legislature of the legal instruments on press freedom Liberia established, such as the Freedom of Information Law and the Independent Information Commission. If enacted into law, the act will be known as the Kamara Abdullah Kamara Act of Press Freedom, in honor of deceased journalist Kamara Abdullah Kamara, former president of the Press Union of Liberia. An executive martial release issued in Monrovia stressed the important role Mr. Kamara played in convincing national government to repeal provisions on the Penal Law of Liberia, which impede freedom of speech and independence of the press in Liberia, but did not succeed. The Liberian leader described the action as a proof of his government's commitment to uphold the Constitution, Table Mountain Declaration, and other international treaties relating to the press and press-related activities. Senators of Capitol Hill are divided over the passage of the draft Local Government Act of 2018. The Local Government Act, since its existence, has been languishing in the corridors of the national legislature without passage. The Act, when passed, seeks to ensure the election of superintendents, city mayors, as well as chiefs by their constituents. It further seeks to dissolve the existence of statutory districts as well as townships in the political subdivisions of Liberia. The act, which is now being sponsored by the Senate Chair on Internal Affairs, Blebo Brown, is being resisted by some senators of the Liberian Senate. Following a heated debate in session Thursday, Senator Brown said he is optimistic despite the split of senators regarding the passage of the act. According to the Maryland senator, the Local Government Act is in the best interest of the country, as it will give locals the opportunity to elect their own local officials. Speaking to reporters, some of the senators who opposed the act said the current draft of the Local Government Act is in violation of the Constitution of Liberia. Senator Dan Moriarty of Maryland and Daniel Nuthen of Bapalo said their opposition to the act is only intended to ensure that the laws of Liberia are followed. Bone County Senator Henry Yala has confirmed the re-induction of dismissed chiefs over the weekend in the county. Senator Yala told legislative reporters Tuesday that several chiefs were recently dismissed by the county superintendent. But the Bone County Senator added that the dismissal was illegal and the caucus has agreed to re-induct the chiefs. The executive director of the People Action Network, Rufus Newville, has called on the United States government to impose smart sanctions on the government of President George Weah. Addressing reporters in Monrovia Tuesday, Ambassador Newville said the smart sanction, when imposed on the Liberian government, will compel President Weah and senior government officials to declare their assets. He also added that the sanction, when instituted by the U.S. government, would ensure travel restrictions on select government officials with tainted characters. The People Action Network executive director further accused the president and his officials of violating the Constitution and several statutes that set the legal basis for the establishment of integrity institutions. Ambassador Rufus Newville, who just returned from the United States of America, also blasted at President George Weah for accepting a new financing agreement from Iboma, an institution he claimed belongs to the Burkinabes who lent a jet to the president. According to him, the action of the president is a violation of Section 9.2 of the Code of Conduct, which prohibits the receipt of any gift by public officials exceeding 2,000. Two officers of the Bureau of Corrections and Rehabilitation are undergoing police investigation for allegedly selling narcotic substances to inmates at the Monrovia Central Prison. The two correction officers, identified as Putu Johnson and Tatus King, were arrested for their engagement into the trafficking of narcotic substances, which is in violation of the Bureau's Code of Conduct. Addressing a press conference in Monrovia Tuesday, Assistant Justice Minister for Corrections Eddie Twawali said two individuals have been linked to the drug transactions following the testimonies of those arrested. Assistant Minister Twawali further assured of a speedy investigation into circumstances leading to the arrest of the two officers. Meanwhile, the Drugs Enforcement Agency, in collaboration with the Bureau of Corrections Joint Security Search Team, has arrested huge quantity of narcotic drugs from inmates at the Monrovia Central Prison. DA Director Marcus Soko, following a thorough search, said the joint team arrested a total of 355 grams of cocaine valued at $1,171,500 Liberian dollars and 55 grams of heroin valued at $181,500. A non-governmental organization under the banner AUGUSTINE Liberia Tuesday initiated a cleanup exercise in the slum community of West Point. According to the executive director of the group, the cleanup exercise in the township was part of the celebration of World Environmental Day. Jared Saka said the initiative carried out was also intended to create awareness on the need for people to clean their environment. Saka indicated that a clean environment can help prevent citizens from encountering different health complications. The AUGUSTINE Liberia executive director, however, stressed the need for the Liberian government to prioritize the WATCH program in Liberian schools. And the Liberia Agriculture Commodities Regulatory Agency has disclosed a plan to extend its operation in all parts of the 15 counties in Liberia. According to the Public Relations Officer, Gibala Kaba, the operation is part of their desire to impact the agriculture sector in all parts of the 15 counties to boost the Liberian economy. LACRA PRO indicated that this initiative is in consonance with the administration's strategic plan that every part of the country be part of the process that will promote agricultural activities in the country. At the same time, Gibala Kaba said LACRA is expected to start assessment of facilities in other counties as part of its scopes of operation in order to revamp the sector and achieve its agenda in line with the country's PROPO initiative. LACRA Day was launched over the weekend in Buchanan, Grambassa County. That's the shift of the news bulletin.
We would like to say many thanks to you, Augustine KOLLIE, for filling us in with the latest from our news center. While if you're just tuning in, the program you're listening to is Newsnet on OKFM 99.5. And stories we following this morning. Despite critical concerns from the public, House passes controversial $536 million Eton deal, while recent former lawmakers threaten sit in action at the legislature over failure of government to pay their salaries and benefits. President Weah seeks support from Europe for the security sector after signaling that the country may face a terror threat. Back home, he submitted bills to the legislature decriminalizing free speech. Opposition coalition sends shockwave through the governing party. CDC Chairman Moba Molu goes ballistic on the offense. And away from Liberia, a crocodile has killed a Protestant pastor who was baptized in Fellows near a lake in southern Ethiopia. With that, we take our first developments. House of Representatives has overwhelmingly ratified the Eton Finance PTE Limited's $536 million loan agreement pending the Senate's concurrence. The rectification followed more than 2 weeks of scrutiny that witnessed public hearings after being submitted by President George Weah. A Representative Thomas Fowler argued that the passage, when concurred with by the Senate, will enhance road connectivity in southeastern Liberia, boost revenue generation, and increase agricultural productivity.
When this document is passed, Mr. Speaker, it seeks to address, in terms of fixes or breakdown, Barclay Bill to road, you will have 75 kilometers of road paved. Topman Brand to Bobolu Road, we have 50 kilometers. Medina to Rawa Sports, we have 41.3 kilometers. Because Sestos, Greenville, Barclayville, we have 316 kilometers of road. Some road, we have 21 kilometers. Mr. Presiding, since 1970, the inception of our country, 170 years of existence, we were told by expert opinion, leaders of our country, in some of our conversations, that there is only 1,000 kilometer road since 1970 is being paved. 94% of our roads in our country are unpaved. I think, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, if we never acted a stand that we act now.
Representative Thomas Fowler there speaking. Former members of the 53rd Legislature have threatened a sit-in action in the chambers of the 54th Legislature on June 19. A communication to that body under the signatures of former Representatives Richmond Anderson and Eminem Batikwa noted that the sit-in action is due to government's failure to settle their salaries and benefits. A former Representative Anderson and Batikwa, in a communication read by the House's Deputy Chief Clerk, Safu Jible, maintained that the salaries and benefits were allocated in the 2017-2018 budget but have not been paid.
We write to remind you of our legitimately owed salaries and benefits which were promised to be finally settled as allocated in the fiscal year 2017-2018 national budget. Again, we are constrained to issue yet another reminder due to the lingering delays occasioned by a seeming nonchalant approach to the settlement of our due and legitimate entitlements. Honorable Speaker and members, it is extremely disheartening for you, especially our former colleagues who currently preside over the leadership of the 54th Legislature, to adopt a cold shoulder approach to the welfare concerns of your former colleagues. We believe very passionately that the best collection of legislators who can better seek our well-being is this group. Therefore, please act as anticipated, because we are legally provided for in this fiscal year 2017-2018 national budget that was further reaffirmed in the recast. As former national leaders, we think the attitude of belittling and demeaning those who serve the country is unacceptable and ignorable. Indeed, we should all be reminded that one day each of us, whether current or future national leaders, will eventually become former. Hence, it is important to note that town tribe has never been restricted to rat alone. As a consequence of our great impatience with the unwarranted protracted delays, we have resolved that if nothing is done by June 15, 2018, we will stage a humble collective appearance in an executive session of the plenary on Tuesday, June 19, 2018, in order to accentuate the urgency of our concerns.
Deputy Chief Clerk Safu Jible there reading that communication. It remains unclear as to whether some members of the 53rd, currently in the 54th, are also demanding. Meanwhile, the leadership of the House of Representatives has been mandated to handle the matter. President George Weah has alarmed over a possible terroristic threat on the peace of the country. Speaking at the EU Development Summit Day in Brussels, the chief executive stated that since Liberia accepted to participate in the UN peace mission in Mali, there may be terroristic attacks on the fragile peace.
Besides gender inequality, which negatively impacts our social progress and development, we are also faced with a new security threat in which terrorism, since our troops become involved in a United Nations peacekeeping mission in Mali. We run a race of retaliatory strikes from supporters and sympathizers of the forces that threaten peace in Mali. Our involvement was solely based on reciprocations of the many sacrifices that other United Nations forces have made to bring peace to Liberia. In the face of this new risk, we are asking the European Union, in conjunction with the United Nations, to work with our security sector to ensure the safety of our citizens and residents within our borders.
President George Weah there alarming over a possible terroristic threat on the peace of the country. President George Weah pledged his administration's commitment to the fight against sexual and gender-based violence at the ongoing European Development Day Summit.
I applaud the European Union for dedicating this year's European Development Days to development of women within the context of the Sustainable Development Agenda 2030 under the theme Women and Girls at the Forefront of Sustainable Development, Protect, Empower, and Invest. In today's evolving world, there has been major progress made in some countries with gender equality. However, in other countries, the rights of women and girls remain a major challenge, especially in developing countries. How can we develop without women and girls are not in development? How can we achieve meaningful economic growth if women and girls are excluded from participating in economic activities?
President George Weah speaking. The chairman of the Coalition for Democratic Change, Mobile Malu, has blasted the three collaborating political parties, describing them as a handful of weak and corrupt political individuals. Addressing a press conference at the party's national headquarters Tuesday, Malu said the joint statement presented by the three political parties is not a surprise, but in continuation of their selfish desires aimed at tarnishing the reputation of the governing party and President Weah.
We heard about the groups that yesterday called press conference. Called a press conference, and in their shenanigans, they want the proper public anger, still revolt, undermine the prevalence indicated to build the country, and they call themselves three parties in the collaboration. And they want you to be misled at that to do something new. Not something new. Don't you remember that during the runoff elections, they came together again? Trotsky likes the moral rectitude, because I know you still control the party from the back. To talk about money laundering, corruption, really? When he laundered so much money, he broke the whole bank time over a year. He got a bank to break down. For means using his foundation to London, going to Liberia, offering from corporate agents in the diaspora, getting $1 million coming, putting in his party, and putting most of it in his personal account. It talks about integrity, when you have the party chairman that was trained by Capitol, for academic fraud. You know, that party is the chief architect, chief patron, the commander-in-chief of stealing.
CDC Chairman Mobile Malu. Meanwhile, the three collaborating parties are expected to release their first critique of the state of affairs on Wednesday. President George Weah has resubmitted to the national legislature a bill with a modification to repeal some sections of the penal law of Liberia in an effort to decriminalize free speech and create an unfettered media environment. The president also reminded the national legislature of the legal instruments on press freedom of Liberia established, such as the Freedom of Information Law and the Independent Information Commission. Senators of Capitol Hill are divided over the passage of the draft Local Government Act of 2018. The Local Government Act, since its existence, has been languishing in the corridors of the national legislature without passage. The act, when passed, seeks to ensure that the election of superintendents, city mayors, as well as chiefs by the constituents. According to the Maryland County Senator Blebo Brown, the Local Government Act is in the best interest of the country, as it will give locals the opportunities to elect their own local officials.
You know, as I said, I'm not disappointed. Is that the fact I just said? I'm being re-energized because when you see resistance from people who have political power, and some of the people, some of our colleagues, they feel that this bill is going to give so much power to the people. But I continue to tell ourselves, even including me, sharing power with our people is in no way diminishing our own authority. But it's a way to see our country moving forward. Giving power to people should participate in decision making, and that's why we move our country forward. Exactly, that's why we move our country forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Senate Chair on Internal Affairs Blebo Brown thus speaking to reporters. Speaking to reporters, some of the senators who opposed the act said the current draft of the Local Government Act is in violation of the Constitution of Liberia. Senator Dan Marias of Maryland and Daniel Ten of Bapaloo said their opposition to the act is only intended to ensure that the laws of Liberia are followed.
We are not against Liberia evolving from one stage to another. It's extremely important for Liberia to grow, but we also must make sure that we do it in accordance with law and respect to the organic instrument that we have that we refer to as the Constitution. The Constitution sets forth provisions. The Constitution is clear as to what form of government we have. It says a republican form of government. And what the execution? It is unitary. And when we see any part of our Constitution is being brought to limelight or negated, our first and foremost responsibility is to flag.
Our problem, if we are discussing a law that we see from the beginning in violation of the provisions of the Constitution, I don't think we should continue to debate it. We should recognize that violation and strike them out. So the Local Government Act, yes, it's good that we should transform the laws of this country because some of the laws are, decades old, but we will have to take into consideration the effect it will have. For instance, you are suggesting that political institutions that have existed since the governance of this country scratched off should be dissolved, and you have Liberians manning those political institutions.
Senator Dan Marias of Maryland and Daniel Ten of Bapaloo County, they're opposing to the Local Government Act. Bone County Senator Henry Nyala has confirmed the reinduction of the dismissed chiefs over the weekend in the county. Senator Nyala told legislative reporters Tuesday that several chiefs were recently dismissed by the county superintendent.
The Bone Legislative Caucus has just concluded a meeting, and this meeting was intended to review some of our activities, reference to what is obtaining in Bone County currently. As you are aware, the Bone Legislative Caucus released a resolution to the effect of chiefs being dismissed in Bone County in contravention to Article 56B of our Constitution, which call for chiefs to be elected and can be removed by the President of the Republic with a proven cost. We want to say to the public that we are still following the process critically, and our understanding is those chiefs that were removed and replaced unconstitutionally, the replaced chiefs are going to be inducted over the weekend in some of the districts. We are following the process and will continue to inform our people and speak to the public as the process unfolds. We had a meeting with the President a week ago for his departure, and the discussion was very friendly, where he has admonished all of us to go back and see how we correct the system. On our side,
Bone County Senator Henry Nyala. Considering the reinduction plan by Senator Nyala and other lawmakers, it appears as though there exists internal wrangling amongst not only the caucus members, but other stakeholders of the county. Let's now take some of your text reaction coming into our Facebook page. This one says, good morning, OKFM, and good morning to the peace-loving people of Liberia. I'm George Xavier Nambwe, and I write from the most organized district in Mansorado, District 11. OKFM, let Chairman Molu be very serious here. The issues that are affecting our country are troubling, alarming, and seriously disturbing. Why attack the three political parties when they said nothing negative to the government in their joint statement? In fact, this government is answerable to all because Liberia is practicing a democratic form of government. Chairman Molu has to desist from being abusive and malicious. As it relates to other issues, I think, in my mind, the lawmakers are acting in the interest of the struggling masses. Once the loan will impact Liberians mainly through roads construction. I see no reason to reject it. My greatest worry is for this loan to be used for its intended purpose. To conclude, let the former lawmakers stop crying so soon. We are running a poor government, so there is no money. In fact, some of them are playing deceit on the president like J. Gabriel Yinkan, Richmond Anderson, and Bill Twawin. We will not listen to their cries. Trust me, OKFM, the motherland will never fall. George Xavier Namwe of Banove writes. This one says, that mobile model of CDC, speaking of corruption and selfishness now, my people, OKFM, there is no one in Liberia corrupt and crooked compared to mobile model. It was the same mobile model that lied of seeing Barack Obama in Ghana a few years ago. Just so you know, OKFM, why should mobile model respond to the collaboration made by ANC, LP, and UP when said collaborations was initially condemned by CDC's entire leadership? Are they smelling their own defeat in 2023? Look, the name George Manuel Weah will be democratically ignored by the good people of Liberia in 2023, and Weah will be incarcerated for misusing the Liberian people money on his wife and private travels. OKFM Thomas Fala of District Number 5, Maserado County, is the Ways, Means and Finance Chairman in the lower house, and the Eaton financing loan deal is a deal sponsored by the entire CDC family. Look, Mr. President and his first class of I can't go that route, but James Naplaso Fala writes. And this one says, good morning, OKFM. If the lower house passed the agreement without any 10% precondition, then it is welcoming. We from the southeastern region welcome government roads initiative. We have suffered too long. Mountain Waman Brown writes. And this one says, good morning, President Weah and the potential young people of Dole community, where the proper agenda is vigorously working. I'm overwhelmed to contribute to this platform this morning. Firstly, thanks to the lower house for the timely decision to rectify the Eton loan agreement. It is time for Liberians to eat the fruit of good governance. For so long, Liberia's development has been hampered by ill leadership, but under this government, we must win the war against bad road conditions. I therefore urge the Senate to concur with the lower house in order to have a Lazarus effect on Liberia. With the proper agenda, Liberia shall rise again. Long live OKFM, long live Minister Mama Sikaba, and long live Mama Liberia. And this one is from Mohammed A. Dukle from the United Methodist University. To this development now, the executive director of the People Action Network, Rufus Newville, has called on the United States government to impose smart sanctions on the government of President George Weah. Addressing reporters in Monrovia Tuesday, Ambassador Newville said the smart sanction, when imposed on the Liberian government, will compel President Weah and senior government officials to declare their assets.
If the smart sanction is imposed, the American government or the United Nations will have a leverage to check the foreign accounts of Liberian government officials, to restrict their travels. Through that means the history of the wealth, the President of the Republic of Liberia, Ambassador George M. Weah, and all of his officials, they have deliberately, blatantly refused to declare their assets. Because they have refused to declare their assets, there's no way we can determine how they enter the government and how they're going to leave. I listened to the Ministry of Information talking about January is belated. There's no need for the president to declare his assets anymore.
should go 6 years without declaration of assets. President declares his asset anytime in the future. The declaration of asset form will be nothing than an ordinary toilet paper or tissue. I hope.
He's the executive director of the People Action Network, Rufus Newville. Ambassador Rufus Newville, who just returned from the United States of America, also blasted at President George Weah for accepting a new financing agreement from Ebomaf, an institution he claimed belonged to the Burkinabe, who lent a jet to the president.
The second point is we are also disturbed by signs of dictatorial tendency on the part of the president. You are aware of the Ebomaf loan, the $426 million loan, and you are also aware of the loan with the Elton Financial Private Limited of more than $500 million. The Ebomaf loan, as part of the agreement, a company has already been awarded the contract to construct the road if the money is raised. Under our Public Procurement and Concession Law, that is a violation. Under the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission Act, that is a violation. Under all of our governance principles, that is a violation. You cannot borrow money in the name of Liberia, and as part of the borrowing agreement is the assignment of the execution of a contract to a particular company.
Rufus Newville is the executive director of the People's Action Network. 2 officers of the Bureau of Corrections and Rehabilitation are undergoing police investigation for allegedly selling narcotic substances to inmates at the Monrovia Central Prison. Addressing a press conference in Monrovia Tuesday, Assistant Justice Minister for Correction, Eddie Trawale, said 2 additional individuals have been linked to the drugs transactions following the testimonies of those arrested.
The issues of the drugs that have been inflowed within our facilities is as a result of few issues. We have identified that visitors who normally go at our prison facility to see their family members and friends have been the conveyors of these issues of drugs within our facility. We also want to inform the general public that BCR administrations is very rigid in terms of executing all of our administrative principles and values. We have identified that some of the drug transactions, it is as a result of our officers that have been involved within the issues of drugs conveyor. They have conveyed drugs to inmates, and we have set up the security system that those who have been involved must be arrested, apprehended, and forward to the Department of Prosecution.
Assistant Justice Minister for Correction, Eddie Trawale. Meanwhile, the Drugs Enforcement Agency, in collaboration with the Bureau of Correction Joint Security Search Team, has arrested huge quantity of narcotic drugs from inmates at the Monrovia Central Prison. DA Director Micah Soko, following a thorough search, said the joint team arrested a total of 355 grams of cocaine valued at $1,171,500 Liberian dollars and 55 grams of heroin valued at $181,500.
Few days ago, we were contacted by the Assistant Minister of Justice for Rehabilitation, Eddie Trawale, that there were some inmates suspected to be in the business of drug consumption. And based upon that, we set our time and date at which we will go to do a joint search of the zero cells at the Monrovia Central Prison. On reaching, we first engaged the new building, which hosts about 500 inmates. Our 14-man team from Drug Enforcement Headquarters were instructed to search every cell within that building. And during that search, we were able to discover a total of 355 grams of cocaine, value $1,171,500. We also discovered heroin. The quantity is 55 grams, value $181,500.
DA Director Marcus Sokoves speaking. Let's now take some of your reaction coming in to our Facebook page. This one says, this Eton deal will help our country economy to improve. Goods and services will be delivered in time. Capital per gross domestic products will be increased. I'm going to build my dream house in Barclayville City as well. I'm in full support of the pro-poor agenda. Hereditors Bless Wallow Gray is writing that one. This one says, "Good morning, OKFM. I believe this is not a surprise to me and many other Liberians who voted for the CDC. Given the subvertent nature of Ambassador George Weah, my impression of a better Liberia nourishes day by day. This is no time to waste. Our people are dying of these basic necessities. Wherever funds are to facilitate this initiative, go for it, Mr. President." And this one is from Raphael E. Donokula II. And this one says, "Good morning, OKFM Newsnet. That the lower house has rectified the loan agreement is welcoming. For so long, we from the southeast have suffered from bad roads since the founding of this country called Liberia. Bravo to the lower house for such a brilliant decision. I write from a resident on Jamaica Road, Bourgeois Island, and this is Hamilton Rule." And this one says, "Good morning, OKFM. The Eton deal is welcoming and to enable the poor government to work. But why shall the government be talking about roads when JMB talk about roads? When JMB talk about road, the seditious complain. Thanks to the House, let's watch and see how it works. Think Liberia, love Liberia, and build Liberia." And this one is from Moses Bender. "Good morning, OKFM. Did I hear that the legislature have passed the Eton loan agreement? If so, what is the grace period and what benefits Liberians stands to gain? Will the same lawmakers who rectify this agreement use this money to satisfy their special aggrandizement? Mr. President, please don't put our country in another debt again. For Chairman Molu, let him mind his choice of words. Instead, let him be telling the Liberian people when the War Crime Court will be established." Samuel B. Kwekwe writes. And this one says, "Good morning, OKFM and the hospitable people of District 8. Let me use this public medium to salute the hospitable members of the 54th National Legislature for a job well done. Let me conclusively conclude by commending Mr. Molu for responding to the regroup cartel members." Henry Kovayan writes. "Good morning, OKFM. I write from my comfort zone, to be precise, Swagger Island, Stephen Turber Estate community. My concern is drawn to the statement of Mr. Molu. Mr. Molu, you ascended to power through coalition. Why speak this way? Let us be serious in this country and respect one another. Trust me, our motherland would never fall." Rhymin Dolo writes. And this one says, "It is not critical concern from the public about the loan, but critical concern from oppositions, OKFM." And this one is by Dubayo 54 Blay. He writes, and this one says, "Good morning, OKFM and listening audience. I think taking this loan to build roads is a fine idea, provided that the entire fund is used for the intended purpose. The quality of the roads and other mentioned infrastructures are not compromised. The bidding processes for the contracts are done according to the laws. Proper maintenance of the roads and etc. It will be a better one." And this one is for George Vama. He writes, this one says, "I pray so the 54th legislature can see reasons to sign the loan. I hope all Liberians will join the noble president to save our country from poverty and to prosperity." Otaka Kahu writes. This one says, "Good morning, OKFM. Let me say thanks for allowing Liberian voices be heard across the world. First of all, let me say thanks to President Weah and members of the 54th legislature for their goodwill. I mean, for passing such loan agreement is welcome, and let them keep their good works and put Liberia first." And this one is by Alfonso Weah. He writes, "OKFM, I write from Jamaica Road Intellectual Center this morning. The collaboration of these parties should send a strong signal to CDC to inform them that the political game is about to go intellectual, and President Weah should be very careful. Thank God They are not carrying caskets and recruiting any units around here. Intellectual game is coming. CDC, be prepared. Razak Khan writes. This one says, good morning, OKFM. Let the CDC chairman find something different to say or somewhere to hide himself, because those individuals of the various parties are far better than him, Molo, in terms of personality or good moral standing. And finally, we hope that this 4G loan agreement will thoroughly be scrutinized by the House of Elders, making sure that it meets the standards of our laws that benefits the masses and not a little few. And this one is from J. Napoleon McGill. Bonjour, OKFM. More loans are being sent to the National Legislature for rectification and subsequent passage. Bravo to the powerful chairman to stand against those post-election traumatized oppositions. Eric Gay writes. And finally, this one says, good morning, OKFM, and the peace-loving people of Liberia. I hope and pray that the money be used for the intended purpose, because some of our lawmakers are gearing up for pocket change. Right from Painesville Pipeline, I am Edwin K. Thomas. And finally, to this development, a non-governmental organization under the banner I Care Liberia Tuesday initiated a cleanup exercise in the slum community of West Point. According to the executive director of the group, the cleanup exercise in the township was part of the celebration of World Environmental Day. Jerry Sacker said the initiative carried out was also intended to create awareness on the need for people to clean their environment.
International occasion, that is the World Environment Day. We were driven by the many lapses or words from people that West Point is an abandoned community, and we also thought it wise to get back to West Point as to clean up the plastics, because we have the overall theme for the World Environment Day is beat plastic pollution. So we came here today at least to help the people of West Point, the residents or the dwellers, to clean up their communities, their areas, and then clean up the plastics as well. I cannot use a word to describe such incident, but I think it was kind of saddening for us when we came and other people started throwing mockery at us, saying we were paid to do this job and we should have paid them instead to do the job. This is just a voluntary job from I Care Liberia. We are not being paid. We do not have sponsors or international partners.
Jerry Sacker is the executive director of a non-government organization under the banner I Care Liberia. Let's now rejoin Augustine Kollie to bring us foreign developments.
A crocodile has killed a Protestant pastor who was baptizing followers near the lake in southern Ethiopia. Docho Ashiti was conducting a ceremony for about 80 people on Sunday morning at Lake Abaya in Abamesh Town's Mekep Tabia district. Residents and police told BBC Amharic a crocodile leaped from the water, throwing the baptism and attacked him. Pastor Docho died after being bitten on his legs, back and hands. Despite huge efforts, fishermen and residents could not have Pastor Docho. Policeman Ewitu Kando said they used fishing nets to prevent the crocodile from taking the pastor's body into the lake. The crocodile escaped. And Iran says it has begun work on increasing its uranium enrichment capacity in case its 2015 nuclear agreement with world powers collapses. The head of Iran's atomic agency told reporters that it was developing infrastructure to build advanced centrifuges at the Natanz facility. The agency has informed the United Nations of the move, but said it will remain within the rules of the deal. President Donald Trump withdrew the U.S. from the deal with Iran last month. Ethiopian powers announced scrambling to salvage the nuclear agreement, which imposes restrictions on Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for lifting sanctions. The foreign news.
Augustine Kollie there, bringing us to the end of today's presentation of NewsNet. Before leaving you a recap of stories we closely followed. Despite critical concerns from the public, House passes controversial $536 million US Eton deal While recent former lawmakers threatened sitting action at the legislature over failure of government to pay their salaries and benefits, President Weah seeks support from Europe for the security sector after signaling that the country may face a terror threat. And back home, he submits a bill to legislature decriminalizing free speech. Opposition coalition sends shock waves through governing party. CDC Chairman Moba Molu goes ballistic on the offensive. And away from Liberia, a crocodile has killed a protesting pastor who was baptizing followers near a lake in southern Ethiopia. We would like to say many thanks to our news director, editor, correspondents, and many reporters for successfully packaging this edition. Augustine KOLLIE was here with a news bulletin and later brought to you foreign developments. Eddie put inside our controls and handle all of the sounds. And on behalf of the entire team here at OK Communications Incorporated, I presented Olive Stevenson. To have yourself a pleasant morning. And for more news on this station, you can log on to www.okfmlr.com. Thanks for watching and listening.